Hello, everybody, and welcome to From the Mezzanine, the Broadway podcast for the Broadway fans. Here we talk about all things Broadway news, Broadway grosses, and let's be honest, all of the tea and gossip that happens week to week in the Broadway stratosphere. And I am bringing you some tea and gossip this week. There are some things going on online, on the Tiki-Talkie, on Theater Talk that we need to chat about. And I'm your host, by the way, I'm your host. My name is Lindsey Stone. And thank you so much for being a Broadway bestie here. And what's up? How is everybody doing? I hope you're having a fantastic start to spring. Is it too early to say that? It's already like spring-ish in New York City, and I am loving every second of it. It's making me more inclined to like be outside. And when I say be outside, I mean run around the theater district. Much more inclined to run around, do silly things, make TikToks, and honestly, see more Broadway. And that's exactly what I'm doing lately. My next week is so stacked with Broadway shows, it's actually crazy. Today, right after I record this episode, I am sprinting to go and see the Jonathan Larson Project playing at the Orpheum Theater. I am so excited. I love Jonathan Larson so much. There's so much of his catalog of music that I know that I haven't even heard yet and that I'm going to fall in love with. He has some of the best songs ever written for musical theater. This is the life, bo 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 bo. And of course, all of Rent, Tick Tick Boom. I am so elated. And it seems like a lot of people are really enjoying the Jonathan Larson Project. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see that. So that's today. Tomorrow, I am seeing Little Shop of Horrors, starring Milo Manheim and Liz Gillies. I've never seen Little Shop in my life before, and this will be my first time finally going. And there have been so many stars that have entered through Little Shop, and I've been like, this will get me in, and they've never gotten me in. But this pairing of Liz Gillies and Milo Manheim is just so chef's kiss that I cannot wait to see it with my own two eyes. And I think people are loving it. And Bryn told me today, she was like, I've heard that Milo makes some choices that you're going to absolutely die over. I can't wait. I feel like I might have overhyped it for myself, but also no, like it's going to live up to my expectations, and seeing him in real life is going to be crazy. And Liz Gillies as well. Like this pairing of Audrey and Seymour is just so perfect for our generation of theater fans. We have Milo from Disney and Liz Gillies from the older, more golden age time of Nickelodeon. I can't wait. I'm surprised. I wonder if Ariana Grande has gone to see Liz Gillies yet, because I definitely think that she would. They're best friends, and they're also just such huge theater nerds together. So Ariana's definitely going to go see it. I mean, she's been a little busy with the Oscars, which we're going to talk about, of course. But next week, I'm planning on seeing Death Becomes Her, finally. And I'm seeing Operation Mincemeat next week. So a lot going on. It's a very exciting time on Broadway, and I am beyond lit for everything coming this season. I do think I am going to predict, I think I'm going to love Operation Mincemeat. It seems so specifically like my taste. It's a farcical comedy. I love British comedy as well, and it's semi-historical. It's just giving Gutenberg in a different font, and I think I'm going to love it, love it, love it. There's nothing that I have plans to see that I don't think I'm going to absolutely die for, which is a good way to be. I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll go see this play or I'll go see this musical. Like I feel like I'm not going to love it, but I'll go see it, give it a moment, and usually I end up enjoying it. But right now it's like everything on my docket I'm lit for. So it's a beautiful time on Broadway. Hey guys, it's Lindsey from the future. I just got out of seeing the Jonathan Larson Project, and I didn't want to wait a whole week to tell you guys about it. So here's my little review. We'll get back to the episode in just a couple of short minutes, but I thought I have so many shows coming up. Next week, I'm going to harp on Little Shop, and I'm hopefully seeing Death Becomes Her and Operation Mincemeat. So let's do a little review in this episode, shall we? So the Jonathan Larson Project, I want to give you guys a little synopsis before we get into more of the review, because it is so different than what I had anticipated. So this musical, it's much more of a cabaret. Think when you go and see a 54 Below show and each song is somewhat a similar theme. However, they don't correlate. That is like the Jonathan Larson Project. They have organized and brought together all of these works, all of these songs that were either cut from a musical, or maybe he wrote it for radio, or even just like some one-off theatrical songs that Jonathan Larson wrote. They have composed that into a musical. And there's essentially no storyline. As an audience member, the really cool and special part about the Jonathan Larson Project was that I got to see what else could have been if Jonathan Larson were still alive today, and got to develop all of these works. And wow, was he working on so many things. To just mention a few, and to kind of give you an idea of how each song is so different. And like, we have 5 characters. We have 2 women and 3 men who are performing each of these songs, whether it's in an ensemble piece or a solo or a duet. They're each singing these songs, but they're not playing characters. They're really just the vessel to present this song. It's more of a song presentation of Jonathan Larson's works. But to give you an example, there's one song about oil spills and a ship colliding with another ship. There's another song, vastly different, called Hosing the Furniture, that feels like it is taking place in a futuristic world by this wild woman who is so crazy, and she's hosing down the furniture. There's another song about, it's called The Vision Thing, and it's a political campaign and what you do and how America reacts to political campaigns and what they want to see. There's another song called Valentine's Day, and that is a really interesting song because thanks to this handy dandy slip, if you're watching on YouTube, they place this slip in the playbill. And it adds the color and the context to each of these songs, whether they were cut from a musical or if he just wrote it one off, it was just a theatrical song or a pop song that he wrote. It tells you the story behind each song, and I would definitely recommend to get to the theater early, or maybe they have this slip online. Read about these songs before you see it because it will enhance your experience. I wish that I would have done that, but on my subway ride home, I read about each song and I was like, oh, that's so cool. So this Valentine's Day song, it was a song that Jonathan Larson apparently has been trying to place into his musicals, and he tried to put it in Tick, Tick, Boom. He tried to put it in Rent. And the really cool thing is, in Rent, he wanted Mimi to sing it. And like I said, it's called Valentine's Day. And this song is the reason that there are so many references to holidays in Rent, like New Year's Eve when they go out and they're all in their costumes. It's because of this song that they have those references in Rent, and the song isn't even in the musical anymore, but you can hear it in the Jonathan Larson Project. So I feel like that really gives you the gist of this plot. It's lacking in plot. I wouldn't say that there is a plot. I wouldn't say that there is a storyline, but as an audience member who loves Jonathan Larson and all of his works, it is fascinating to be able to hear all of these songs and really place yourself in his headspace for a little while. And the fact that, like I said, all these songs are so vastly different, that he had the ability to write songs about all of these different subject matters is just really, really fascinating. The standout in this musical for me was Taylor Iman Jones. She is so amazing, so talented. Her voice is incredible, but I think the entire cast was wonderful in the Jonathan Larson Project. I do, and maybe I don't wish it upon the Jonathan Larson Project, but I do hope that one day we will get a musical that outlines his story. I know Tick, Tick, Boom is somewhat of a biography of himself, but it's of this one point in time of his life. It would be wonderful to have like a full musical just about him and his life. They utilize the set in really interesting ways in this musical. They have a lot of projections and TVs that will play snippets of moments of Jonathan's life, and then throughout the songs they also utilize the TVs as well. It's just so inspired, you guys. His work was so inspired. He had so much angst and passion for what he believed musical theater should be, how America should be. He has this other song called White Male World, and this was from a cabaret that he developed called Skirting the Issues. And the show's tagline was, quote, "The post-Barbie generation takes aim at everything." And that was what the vibe was. You know, there's a lot of pushback in Rent, you know, F the patriarchy, la vie bohème, like this is how we should live. Things are unique, things are abstract, things are out of the realm of possibility almost. And I love his frame of mind. And I love that he was always asking why and just pushing the bounds, especially the bounds of musical theater. There was one familiar song in this, and it was Out of My Dreams, which I believe they briefly play in Tick, Tick, Boom. Out of my dreams, out of my dreams. In the movie Tick, Tick, Boom, they briefly play it, and then on the soundtrack, they like release the whole song. So that was probably my favorite song in the entire musical. Yes, played by Taylor Iman Jones, of course. But yeah, according to this paper, he hoped that Whitney Houston would sing that song. So anyways, as a Jonathan Larson fan, I truly enjoyed the Jonathan Larson Project. Any little tidbit or peek behind what his life was like, I am so on board for, because I am fascinated with him as a person. I am mesmerized by his story. It's heartbreaking, but also so inspiring. And so I love that this show is playing at the Orpheum Theater. And do I see a future for it? I think it's where it needs to be. I think it's at the perfect theater. It's a very eclectic area. And I think that it's where it's supposed to be. And I definitely believe that the people who love Jonathan Larson, like myself, are going to find their way here. I don't think it would play right on Broadway, too commercial, but I'm very pleased with having seen it. Congratulations to the director, Ashley Tepper. She should be so proud of herself. We love a female director who is pushing the bounds just like Jonathan Larson did. And look, it's like getting dessert. It's like we get to see Rent, we get to see Tick, Tick, Boom. That's the main course. But when it comes to Jonathan Larson, I want everything. I want dessert too. And that's what the Jonathan Larson Project is. It's like, you want to see his cut songs? You want to see his like rejects? Well, here you go. And some of the songs, perhaps I can see why they were rejected. Not that they're bad, just because they wouldn't have fit. Like Valentine's Day, now that I've heard it, it was an amazing song. One of the high points of the musical. But, you know, there's always a reason that a song gets cut. So as a big Jonathan Larson fan, as so many musical theater nerds are, we want as much Jonathan Larson content as we can get. His music is so abstract, and honestly, the weirder, the better. And if you embrace that mentality before you go and see the Jonathan Larson Project, just know you're going to see like the craziest songs. Quite a few of them are very similar to Maureen's "The Cow Jumped Over the Moon" song in Rent. A lot of them are like that, but that's why we love Jonathan Larson. The weirder, the better. The more abstract, the more crazy, the more nonsensical. That's him. That's his style. But then he just pulls out a song like Love Heals in Jonathan Larson Project, or Seasons of Love in Rent, and you're like, wow, you are the best artist of this generation, you know? So it was great, and I'm really happy that I saw it. I definitely would recommend going early so you can read about the songs prior to going. If you're going, like, message me. I'll send you a photo of this so that you can read about them prior to. And yeah, that's my Jonathan Larson recap. Back to the app. Okay, let's talk about Oscars. This isn't necessarily like a news story, but we have to catch up on it. So Wicked was nominated for 10 Oscars. They ended up taking home 2, wait, let's not start talking about the awards. Let's start talking about the opening number. That was so beautiful. Ariana Grande singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow in, might I say, the most beautiful dress I've ever seen. This red sequin dress with this tulle that came out from her waist. And on the back of the dress, there was a red ruby slipper. It was such a fun detail, and she looked so beautiful. So yes, she belted Somewhere Over the Rainbow. An 8. Cynthia Erivo sang Home from The Wiz. And then they both come together and sang Defying Gravity. And Cynthia Erivo, I don't know if she has ever hit a wrong note, a flat note in her life. Her voice just transcends vocalism. She is so supremely talented. And I feel like in that moment, I was like, you know what? Who cares about the awards? Who cares what we take home? I say we. Look, I am a part of the Wicked team at this point, let's be honest. But I was like, this moment, I feel like everybody is appreciating Wicked. And that's all I truly want. All I want is people to recognize and appreciate Wicked. And I feel like that moment did that. So then the awards started and we didn't take home very much. We took home 2 out of 10 awards. But I will say the 2 that we took home, it was like, nobody else can take these home. Like, these have to go to Wicked. We won scenic design, which, Wicked built an entire little town. We built Munchkin Land, we built Oz, and we built Shiz University. They literally built a town. So I don't know how, a magical place. And so I don't know how they couldn't have taken home scenic design, because their scenic design was so beautiful. And you can even see, like, it was not green screen. It was truly built. They built a river for them to come into Shiz University on a boat. Come on now. It was so beautiful. The scenic design was so stunning. So that certainly, without a doubt, could not have gone to anybody else other than Wicked. And our other category that we won was costume design. Paul Tazewell. Wow. That was another one. I was like, there's no way this can go to anybody else, because his costumes in Wicked were so inspired. And I love Bowen Yang gave a little speech to Paul beforehand talking about his costuming, and he was wearing the Shiz costume. I loved that so much. And yeah, that could not have possibly gone to anybody else, and nobody is more deserving than Paul Tazewell, who I've actually met. And let me just say, when I met him, it was at the Drama Desk Awards, and he was nominated and won for Stuff's costumes. I had no idea who was doing the costumes for Wicked, and I wish that I did in that moment. But also, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I may have only asked him about Wicked, and I love the costumes and stuff, so it was great to chat with him about that. But Paul Tazewell, he also has done the costume design for Hamilton. He is so talented, and he was the first Black man to ever win the costume design category at the Oscars. So deserving. He is such a genius. So the 2 that Wicked did take home, I was like, very proud of, and very deserved. Of course, I wish it would have won for Best Picture, which is the biggest award of the night. That went to Anora. I have not seen Anora. Of course, I wish that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande both won in their actress categories. I'm not going to get on my soapbox because I've done it a million times. I'm not going to do it. But Zoe Saldana beat out Ariana Grande again, which is insane to me. It's just insane. She was the lead of that musical. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. But did not appreciate that. But, I knew it was going to happen. I feel like I was already prepared that Ariana likely wasn't going to win, which is so unfortunate, but whatever. Whatever. It was a very wonderful night, and I just feel like everybody knows in our hearts that Wicked was the best picture. Even people who are not Broadway people, I feel like we all know that Wicked was the movie of the year. And part of me also thinks next year, Wicked for Good, Wicked Part 2 is going to sweep. And I feel like they held space for Wicked Part 2 to come in next year, because I anticipate Cynthia's performance in For Good is going to, if it's even possible, be better than Wicked Part 1. Because Elphaba has so much character development, and she grows into herself. She becomes a woman. She becomes powerful. She the layers of the it's not even an onion anymore. It's a freaking croissant. She is so layered, and her character development in the second half of Wicked is just so extreme that I think she is going to give it to us. I have said this. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but this is how I felt about her performance. In the current Wicked, I feel like she played it very naive, very young. You can even hear on the soundtrack, her voice, it just sounds so young and fresh, and she's finding out all of these things for the very first time. I think Wicked for Good is going to slap us across the face with her talent and the lengths at which her voice and her acting can take us. And we're all just going to be wowed and inspired and in awe. And I think that same for Ariana Grande. Like Glinda in the first act, she is so developed, but you know, like shit hits the fan in second act. So it's going to be very amazing to see how they do that, how they play it. And I think it's going to even be way better than Wicked Part 1. I think it's going to be way better. So I think Oscars next year is going to be much more in favor of Wicked, which I cannot wait for. Can't wait. Okay. And with that, folks, let's head into our Broadway grosses. And I might have taken a little peek. We have a new number one. Guess what our number one for the week ending on March 2nd is? It is Othello. They grossed $2.6 million with 7 performances. The Barrymore Theater is not big. For the entire week, their seating capacity is 7,000. Whereas, let's compare, Wicked for their entire week has 15,000. So like over double the amount of seats in the Barrymore Theater where Othello is, but Othello is grossing more. Their top ticket price was $897. Their average ticket price, $361. Their average ticket is over $300. That is so crazy. And speaking of Othello, you guys, I'm sure my listeners have seen, but the craziest thing happened to me this week. Like, I still can't believe that it happened. I usually just like chill out on my lunch break. I oftentimes have my lunch in the office. But it was such a pretty day. And I was like, you know what? I want to go walk around. Let me like film a little TikTok of me counting how many Broadway marquees I can see. And then I was like, oh, let me run over there and see the Othello marquee. And I hint at the very beginning, I'm like, maybe I'll see Jake Gyllenhaal. Maybe. I saw Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, I saw him in front of the marquee. I literally keep like detouring throughout the video. I'm like, okay, let's go see this marquee. Okay, I'm not going to see every marquee. Okay, fine, I'll go and see this marquee. And I keep getting distracted. And then I'm like, okay, no, we have to finally make it to Othello. I finally make it over to the Barrymore Theater. I'm looking at the marquee, and there is freaking Jake Gyllenhaal. Gets out of his car, walks right past me. Maybe like from the point of getting out of his car to getting into the theater, it's like 100 feet. So I see him, I watch him, I turn my camera off, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm like, wait, no, turn your camera back on. And I like record him walking behind me. And I saw Jake Gyllenhaal, and he was so beautiful and so handsome. And I can't even believe it. Like, I really can't believe that was fate. That was fate. And now I definitely believe in manifesting, because I was like, maybe I'll just see Jake Gyllenhaal. Son, perfect timing. How does that even happen? It was insane. It was the best moment ever. It was really insane. So all is that to say, I absolutely need to see Othello. With every fiber of my being, I got to see Othello. So that was insane. I still can't believe that happened. Anyways, like I said, Wicked is number 2, grossing $2.3 million, 100% capacity, absolutely killing it. Hamilton is doing really well again, bumped back up to where they like to be, number 3 at $1.5 million. The Lion King, also, that's our typical top 3 is Wicked, Hamilton, and Lion King. So they're back on top. And Lion King grossed $1.5 million, but they had 92% capacity, kind of interesting. The Outsiders is our number 5, and they grossed $1.2 million, 101% capacity. Gypsy is 6 at $1.2 million for the week, but this is interesting. They're 6, however, they had 77% capacity. That's very interesting. I don't know what to make of that. Aladdin is 7, grossing just over 1 million and at 92% capacity. MJ is at number 8, just barely behind Aladdin. Cabaret is 9 at 90% capacity. I need to see Cabaret. That was on our list to get tickets for this past week, but we tried the Today Tix. We tried to do the online rush. No luck. Very hard to get right now. And to round out our top 10, Sunset Boulevard is number 10, grossing over $1 million, but 83% capacity. This is a drought right now on Broadway. Let's see how Moulin Rouge is doing, because like I said last week, the seats were really empty. One of my friends keeps entering for the lucky seat lottery, and she's winning every single day. And I'm like, yeah, they're kind of struggling to fill seats. Wow, okay, yeah, Moulin Rouge at $745,000 for last week and 82% capacity. That is very low for them. Let's also check the new musicals. Operation Mincemeat, which is still in previews, is grossing $611,000, but they're at 100% capacity. And that Golden Theater that they're in, it's where Stereophonic was, and that is a very small theater. Teeny tiny. So let's not judge them for their lower ranking. Chicago's doing so bad, 58% capacity. Yeesh! Six is not doing great at 75% capacity. Okay, other new musicals, Buena Vista Social Club, which of course is still in previews, is at $758,000. However, they have 92% capacity. That's pretty great. Maybe Happy Ending is doing relatively well, 93% capacity. Redwood is grossing over Maybe Happy Ending and Hell's Kitchen. Good for them. And they are at 83% capacity. Interesting, The Great Gatsby is now bumped down to 80% capacity. Wow, Sarah Hyland isn't pulling. That's very interesting. Okay, Slay. Death Becomes Her is doing really, really well in terms of like new musical. They've grossed over $1 million and they had 90% capacity. It's a drought on Broadway right now. This is not a touristy time whatsoever. It's the lowest time for sales. So we won't hold it against any of these shows just yet. Once we have spring break and we're into the summer months when Broadway pops off, it'll get crazy again, which we love to see. We love to see our industry doing well. Let's head on in to our Broadway news for the week. I am so excited to report that Mamma Mia is getting a revival, which is just kind of crazy because Mamma Mia left Broadway in 2015, like 10 years ago, and it's already coming back. Yeah, isn't that crazy that 2015 was 10 years ago? That's hard to believe. However, only 10 years ago and they're already coming on back to Broadway. Whatever, I'm happy about it. Mamma Mia is such a joyous show that it's a joy to have it on Broadway. We welcome it back. So it will be headed back to the Winter Garden, which is where it originally premiered on Broadway back in 2001. And it will have an opening night for August 14th and a limited run through February 1st. So we're not having an indefinite run. It's coming for just a moment. It is on its national tour right now. And I initially thought that the tour was just passing through New York, but I don't think that that's the case. We will find out more about that later on because they have not announced casting. But I just feel like it's going to do similarly to what The Wiz did, how they were on a national tour, made a stop on Broadway, then headed back on tour. It's a great way to publicize and promote your production and also get a ton of people in to see it. So it makes a lot of sense to do, but they haven't framed it that way. So I don't think that's what they're doing. Mamma Mia's played at the West End for over 25 years and it continues to play today. And so I think that it's more of that. They just want to celebrate this show. It's been so successful. It is so successful. And they want to just put it back on Broadway, just probably to keep it alive. You know what I mean? And also make a lot of money. And I have a Dreamcast for you guys. And my Dreamcast is crazy. My Dreamcast last week with Heather's, it was very Broadway focused. And I was really proud of that. I was like, I don't really have a single stunt cast in this production, nor do I think that they really need or call for a stunt cast. But Mamma Mia, I think there's a reason that they're coming to Broadway. And I think it's because they probably have a crazy stunt cast. And I think I've just shot for the stars with this stunt casting. So in the role of Sophie, who is played by Amanda Seyfried in the movie, I have Sabrina Carpenter. I think it's time. Sabrina was in Mean Girls for one night. Of course, it was before she shot to stardom. But can you imagine her singing, "Don't go wasting your emotion"? I could also see Dove Cameron doing it because these two girlies, they're both Disney girls who love Broadway, who have been on Broadway. Well, actually, has Dove Cameron been on Broadway? I don't think that she has, but she's done a lot of Broadway adjacent things like Hairspray Live, stuff like that. So I could see her also being in this role, but I'm just going to throw it out there because From the Mezzanine predicts the future in terms of casting that Sabrina Carpenter should be Sophie. That would be insane. And the role of Donna, who is played, of course, by Meryl Streep in the movie. Now, this is so probable, and I'm going to tell you why. I think it'll be Anne Hathaway. Okay, for one, Anne Hathaway has been aligning herself with Broadway a lot lately. She did the Broadway for Kamala event that I attended, and she sang, she belted. She is trying to plant the seed in our heads that I am a Broadway person. I am of Broadway caliber. I can sing. You should get used to seeing me in a Broadway capacity. She's doing that for a reason. And whether it is or is not Mamma Mia, I don't know. But I could see her playing Donna and playing it very well. Can you imagine a Sabrina opposite Anne Hathaway musical? That would make so much money. Like, none of us would ever get a ticket. It would be way too hard. But that would be amazing. I think Sabrina should come to Broadway too. I don't know if it would be wise for her career because she is so in the pop sphere and everybody knows and loves her. Like, this might cause like a little lapse, but also it's a very limited engagement. August to February, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, like 7 months, a very short, well, I think it's a pretty short stint and her fans would love it. I think Sabrina as Sophie and Anne Hathaway as Donna is genius. And then my Sky, this is obvious. This is like not crazy. This will actually happen, I'm certain, is Jordan Fisher. I think Jordan Fisher will be Sky in the Mamma Mia revival on Broadway. I just like, duh, right? I thought for literally 2 seconds about that one. Like, obviously, it's going to be Jordan Fisher. Anyways, I love that, right? Isn't that fun? I love dream casting. I'm really getting into it lately. It's just, ever since From the Mezzanine has started predicting the future, I'm like, okay, I've got to continue to do what obviously I've been put on this earth to do, cast people in Broadway shows. But I'm not getting paid for it and they should pay me. So that is a very exciting piece of news that we got this week. Here comes Mamma Mia. Here I go again. My. I will definitely see that musical. I really want to see it when I go to London eventually. Still don't know when exactly that's happening, but it'll still be there because it's been playing for 25 plus years. Our next news story adds a little bit more color to a show that we have really been tracking on From the Mezzanine, and that is The Greatest Showman has announced their creative team. So our director / choreographer is Casey Nicola. Casey has directed / choreographed some of our favorite musicals on Broadway: The Book of Mormon, Some Like It Hot, Aladdin, Mean Girls, and Disney's Hercules. So this makes a lot of sense because Greatest Showman is being developed by Disney Theatrical Group. And so he's already aligned with that group. He's a part of their team. So this makes sense for them to add him as the choreographer or director. I really would have loved, because Greatest Showman has such unique choreography already, I really would have loved if they would have had Sonia Taye, who was the choreographer for Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet, do the choreography, just because I feel like it fits and her style just fits into this like a glove. Like, it fits so perfectly. That's who I would have loved. She's one of my favorite choreographers. But whatever. Casey Nicola, I know he's going to be good. It's fine. He has choreographed some of Broadway's biggest shows, but that would have been my pick, personally. And then we also have our book writer, who is Tim Federle. And he did the book writing for Tuck Everlasting and High School Musical, the musical, the series. So he's also in the Broadway world. I don't know this man. I'm sure he will be fine. We already have the outline for The Greatest Showman in the movie. So how much work is he really going to do? And this isn't a new announcement, but Pasek and Paul developed the music for the movie, and they will also be doing the music for the musical, which is great. We need that linear structure, that through line. It needs to feel exactly the same as the movie because the movie was so successful. I don't have a dream cast for you at this time for Greatest Showman, but that's something I'll do in the future. And I definitely think that they should cast at least like Keala Settle. If Zac Efron came, oh my God, I would die. I don't think that he will. That's okay. That role that Zac Efron played will be played very well by Jordan Fisher, I assume. But yeah, I'll come up with a dream cast maybe on next episode. Our next piece of Broadway news is a little bit of development for The Great Gatsby casting. We found out this week that Michael Malakel, who was previously Aladdin on Broadway, will be our next Caraway, which unfortunately means that my king, Noah J. Ricketts, is leaving The Great Gatsby, which makes me so sad. And there was some extreme speculation that Jordan Fisher was going to be our next Nick Carraway. The name of this episode is absolutely like Jordan Fisher, Broadway's sweetheart, because I can't stop mentioning his name. But there was serious speculation he was going to be our next Nick Carraway, and that would have made a lot of sense to me. I think he would have been great in the role. But no, it's going to be Michael Malachel, and he'll be fantastic. I just know it. He led Aladdin on Broadway. He's going to be amazing. So he is going to be joining the cast on March 31st. And it makes me wonder what is next for Noah J. Ricketts. I stand by that. I think Noah J. Ricketts should have been nominated for a Tony Award. His acting in The Great Gatsby is just next level. So he's got a lot ahead of him. Where could we put him? He would be an amazing Sky in Mamma Mia. He's so dreamy and just so wonderful. I love his acting and I love his voice. So excited to see what's next for him. And this also gives me an excuse to talk about something that I realized this morning. And it kind of blew my mind. But I'm going to have to give you some context and the backstory. So here's the backstory. When I was at the Drama Desk Awards last year, I spoke to Corbin Bleu and Sarah Hyland. And they were so hinting that they were going to be in something together. They were like, yeah, we are not in Little Shop together, but I'm joining Little Shop. He's about to leave Little Shop, but hopefully in the future we'll do something together. Well, guess what? And I can't believe it took me this long to realize, but Sarah Hyland is in The Great Gatsby on Broadway, and Corbin Bleu is in The Great Gatsby at the West End. Isn't that interesting? So I think somehow they're going to merge. I think Sarah Hyland either is going to wind up going over to the West End, or Corbin Bleu, please, I pray, is going to come over to Broadway as Nick Carraway. Like, it's right there. I think it's going to happen. And that's just a little bit of tea and a rumor that I'm going to start myself. Okay, our last news story this week is a little bit of furtherance on one of last week's news stories about the Kennedy Center, and it is that Hamilton has canceled their limited engagement run at the Kennedy Center. So Lin-Manuel Miranda, who actually was a 2018 Kennedy Center honoree, and producer Jeffrey Seller, they sent out a statement through the New York Times that read, quote, "The latest action by Trump means it's not the Kennedy Center as we knew it." They go on to say, quote, "The Kennedy Center was not created in this spirit, and we're not going to be a part of it while it's the Trump Kennedy Center. We're just not going to be a part of it," quote. This is so unfortunate, but I respect their decision 100%, because the funds that Hamilton would make at the Kennedy Center would be through the roof. They were actually going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So this is so commemorative. And the fact that Hamilton was going to be there for that anniversary, so many people would have come. It would have made billions of dollars. And now they're not going, as I think, they don't want that their money to benefit, how they say, the Trump Kennedy Center. So on one side, I fully respect this decision. I say, good for you guys. You have your purpose. If you stand for nothing, what do you fall for? So this is them standing on business and saying, look, this is what we believe in, and we don't believe in what you are doing with the Kennedy Center right now. It's not what it used to be, and we don't want to support that. That is a very respectable decision. But on the other hand, it's like, you just have to think, like, so many people were going to see this and be inspired and support the arts and the actors. And it's just like, it's taking away jobs from actors. It's taking away the audience experience for people who may have gone and thought one way and then be inspired to feel another. And that makes me sad, It's similarly to last week when we were talking about the Finn musical that is now just doing a one night only show on Broadway, but it was going to play at the Kennedy Center. It's like so many children were going to see that musical and be inspired, and now they're not going to have the opportunity to, which, Kennedy Center was likely going to cancel their performances anyways. They just got ahead of it. Whereas Hamilton, there's no way they would have ever canceled it. And Hamilton has been so uniquely positioned because they have a mass appeal to every type of American, which is surprising, but that is how they've been so successful. And the fact that they're like planting their feet in the ground where they believe is right is just really admirable. But it does make me sad for the people that would have had the opportunity to go and feel inspired. It's a lose-lose, to be honest. But they are standing behind their word and saying, this is what we stand for. We're going to stand behind it. So that's good. That's good. But it is disappointing, nevertheless, that people just aren't going to experience Hamilton. But maybe they'll add new tour dates so that the actors and the production doesn't dip. That's what I hope. That's certainly what I hope. Well, folks, that is the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, watching, listening, and thank you for being a Broadway bestie. If you want to become a true Broadway bestie, make it official over on the Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/fromthemezzanine. And over there, I do a special segment. It's kind of like a post-show wrap-up called Meet Me at the Stage Door. We talk about who my Broadway boyfriend of the week is. We talk about what song I'm adding to my Broadway playlist. We go in depth about the shows that I've seen. And sometimes it's the not made for public podcast consumption sort of chatter. We got to talk about just things a little bit more in depth. The Broadway besties know. And if you want to become a Broadway bestie, it's $5.99 a month on Patreon. Please leave me a rate and review wherever you are listening right now. It does such incredible things for the podcast. I appreciate it so, so much. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm down in that comment section, so let me know what you thought about these news stories. Let me know what shows you're seeing soon. If you've already seen a show, what you thought. I'd love to hear your input. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at From the Mezzanine Broadway. And with that, thank you so much for watching or listening, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye!